Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. It's Sunday, October 15th. This morning, I had the opportunity to preach at First Church at Cambridge and wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to be able to be together. Soon, we'll have the opportunity to share a copy of that message with you. I wanted to give you a few updates. Today is day 9 of the war between Hamas and Israel. One of the things we've been hearing coming out of Israel is that there's been significant pressure from the families of those who've been taken hostage on the Israeli government. One American is actually offering a $250,000 reward to Palestinians who might be able to help bring that family member home safely. And so we're seeing divisions within Israeli society and putting pressure on the Israeli government because of the lack of responsiveness or news related to the hostage situation there. We're also in Israeli society, and we're seeing this here in the United States as well, we're seeing growing divisions between those who are supporting the Israeli government and the bombing campaigns in Gaza and those who are supporting Palestinian human rights and the Palestinian situation. And part of our work, and I think you know this, at Churches for Middle East Peace, is to really work against the false binary and the idea that you have to choose one side over the other. Rather, we believe that it's possible to have empathy for both sides while addressing systemic issues, while addressing human rights concerns. So in Israel, there was far right Israelis were threatening a left-wing journalist who actually prayed for victims who died in Gaza, and they gathered outside of his apartment building. And so there are reports about increasing threats in Israel towards people who are advocating for Palestinians. And here in the United States, in Illinois, there was a hate crime where a 6-year-old Palestinian American boy was fatally stabbed, and his mother was critically wounded as a result of divisions around this war. We're hearing from the White House, President Biden has shifted his language quite a bit. He's using language now differentiating the Palestinian people from Hamas. He's saying that they are not one and the same, and that the vast majority of Palestinians are civilians and they should be protected. This is very different language than that which he was using at the beginning of the war. We know also that up to 1 million people in Gaza have already been displaced. Those numbers just a few days ago were 400,000 people whose homes had been destroyed, but as a result of the evacuation from the north, asking residents of Gaza to move to the south, we know that there are about 1 million people who have been displaced from their homes. We do still hear that Israel is planning a ground invasion into Gaza. We've not heard details about that as of yet. And there have been escalations between Israel and Hezbollah at the northern border. And so Israel has been attacking Hezbollah sites. There have been clashes and some small escalations, or I don't know if you'd call them battles, but there have been incidents at the north, and the hope is that that does not escalate further. In terms of what's happening in Gaza, it has been 8 days since water, electricity, and gas has been shut off from the more than 2 million people living in Gaza. Jake Sullivan of the White House reported that the water has been turned on in the south of the Gaza Strip, but we have heard that because of damage and because there's still no electricity, that there's not pumps to actually get the water to the people who are there. And so just today, October 15th, this is Sunday, UNRWA, the UN Refugee Agency, from their headquarters in East Jerusalem, issued this statement. And this is what I really wanted to share with you today. This is from their evening on Sunday night. Good evening to all. Many thanks for being here tonight. This is from the UNRWA Commissioner General, Philippe Lazzarini, and he made these remarks. He said, "Good evening. I've called a press conference to raise alarm." He said, "My UNRWA colleagues in Gaza are no longer able to provide humanitarian assistance. As I speak with you, Gaza is running out of water and electricity. In fact, Gaza is being strangled, and it seems that the world right now has lost its humanity. If we look at the issue of water, we know that water is life. Gaza is running out of water, and it is running out of life. Soon, I believe, there will be no food and there will be no medicine. There is not one drop of water, not one grain of wheat, not a liter of fuel that has been allowed into the Gaza Strip for the past 8 days. The number of people seeking shelter at our schools and other UNRWA facilities in the South is absolutely overwhelming, and we do not have the capacity to deal with them. This is an unprecedented humanitarian catastrophe unfolding before our very eyes. This is absolutely unprecedented. We keep reminding you that international humanitarian law has to be at the center of our concerns. Wars, all wars, even this war, have laws. International humanitarian law is the law of any armed conflict. It explicitly sets the minimum standards that must prevail at any time. The protection of wounded civilians, including humanitarian workers, is non-negotiable under humanitarian law. Last week's attacks on Israel, it was horrendous. Devastating images and testimonies continue to come out. The attack and the taking of hostages are a flagrant violation of international humanitarian law. But the answer to killing civilians cannot be to kill more civilians. Imposing a siege and bombarding civilian infrastructure in a densely populated area will not bring peace and security to the region. The siege in Gaza, the way it is imposed, is nothing less than collective punishment. So before it's too late, the siege must be lifted, and aid agencies must be able to safely bring in essential supplies such as fuel, water, food, and medicine. And we need this to happen now. So those are the words from UNRWA about the situation right now happening in Gaza. I'd encourage you, go to our CMEP website, look at our statements, and we have put out several. We are calling people to stand in the gap, to give, act, and pray. I know we've put out an action alert last week. I hear that there are some resolutions that'll be coming out in Congress this week. We'd encourage you to contact your elected officials, call on them to ask the Biden administration to call for immediate humanitarian assistance, not only the turning on of water in Gaza, but electricity as well, so that pumps can be used and water can be, made accessible to civilians, that the bombing campaign would stop, which is having devastating effects and killing numerous thousands of lives. Already 700 children in Gaza have lost their lives as a result of the war. And we'd ask that you'd consider donating. There's incredible organizations that are doing work in Gaza. We heard today from the the American Friends of the Episcopal Diocese of Jerusalem, that the Ali Hospital today, that one of their wings was bombed. And so we would encourage you, the American Friends of the Episcopal Diocese of Jerusalem, they do humanitarian assistance on the ground. UNRWA, they have an American Friends that you can donate to. You can donate to Catholic Relief Services, and you can support organizations like ours that are doing systematic work calling on the U.S. government to address these core systemic issues and to call to an end to this war. So thank you for your support. We will keep in touch. We'll continue to pray for peace as we work for an end to this horrific conflict.